I'm Nikki and welcome to the Preppy Possum. Today I'm going to lead you step by step through a painting. Alright, so now we're going to paint a poppy. Let's start out by grabbing like a number 6 size brush and dry it off and grab some really like a red, cherry red. And let's start by skipping in from the top left-hand corner, at least 3 or 4 inches, and throw a little whoop like you're going underneath a ping pong ball. Like a little smiley right there at the edge. And then right to the right of that, we'll throw a little bit bigger whoops like you're going underneath a grapefruit. A little sideways booty. And then once you have that, just grab a lot of the red and we'll go ahead and fill it in. Because we'll come back and throw another layer on everything. Alright, then once you have the one at the top, we're going to skip down from our big whoop at least 3 or 4 inches, and we're going to throw a little line kind of coming straight down for 3 inches or so. And then right off of the top of the line, let's throw a little diagonal line that leans to the top right. So kind of little diagonal that leans to the right for at least 3 or 4 inches. And then we're going to do 2 little whoops, like 2 little right hand sides of a rainbow. So a little whoop whoop. And then once you have both of your whoops, then go ahead and bring it down for a couple more inches. And then we're just going to curve it back in towards the middle. So once you have your whoop whoop, bring it down for a few inches, and then we're just going to curve it back in towards the center. And then right here at the bottom, to finish off like the bottom of that petal, we're just going to do like a bumpy little zigzag. Just right there to finish off the bottom of it. And you can go ahead and fill that one in with some red too. So just grab a lot of paint and throw you a little layer, because we'll come back and throw more. So it doesn't matter like which way you fill it in right now. Alright, so we have a good little layer through that first petal. Now we're going to skip down from the top right of that first petal. Skip down at least a couple inches, and we're going to throw a little whoop like you're going over the top and the right hand side of like an orange. So a little whoop. Then we're going to throw another little whoop like you're going around the right hand side of a tangerine or something. This one can bump out just a little bit further to the right, so it comes out just a little bit further. And then we'll do another little whoop like you're going around the right hand side of a ping pong ball or something, so a little bit smaller. And then we'll just throw a little diagonal like you're leaning towards the bottom center for like 4 inches. And then we'll just kind of curve it back in towards the middle for a couple inches. And then we'll go ahead and skip over to the left-hand side and just skip down a little bit from the top left of that petal. So skip down just a little bit from the top left of that petal, and we're going to throw like a little bumpy little edge, like let it lean over here to the left. So I'm going to do a bumpy little edge, a little diagonal that kind of leans towards the top left. And then once you have that, we're going to throw a little whoop. So just kind of curve it off like you're going around the left-hand side of a quarter. And then once you have that right underneath it, we're going to do kind of like 2 tiny little parts of a petal. Kind of looks like 2 little cow udders. So just kind of do like 2 little marks with your brush. And that'll kind of get the look we're going for, just like a little part of our petal. So just 2 little brush, like kind of lay down your brush and get you 2 little marks. And then right off the bottom of those, we're just going to do a big whoop. It's kind of like you're going down for a couple inches, and then we're just going to whoop it in like you're going around the bottom left-hand side of a cantaloupe or something. And then once you have that, we're gonna do another little whoop whoop, like you're going under at the bottom left of like a tangerine or something, so a little whoop whoop. And then we're just gonna connect the left-hand side to the right-hand side with kind of like a little triangle pointing down. Just a little. And you want that to kind of hit the furthest down. All right, so now we have the start to our flower. Now let's go ahead and finish off the middle. So right off of our bumpy little line underneath that top petal, we're just gonna throw a few skinny little triangles that kind of point to the right, kind of pointing towards these little whoops. So we're gonna do a couple skinny little triangles. And then we're gonna do the same kind of thing over here on the left. Just do a bumpy little line and kind of some little triangles. And then we'll just do a few little whoops, kind of like the top part of lips. Just a little whoop whoop right there at the bottom. And we can make this bigger when we come back to fill it in with yellow. So once you have that center part left open, then grab a bunch of red and we're just gonna fill in the rest of our flower. So just leave the center part white for right now. And we're just gonna grab some red and fill in just to get a little layer on there. And don't worry about it being really streaky because we're gonna come back in with a lot of pinks and stuff to make it look a lot better. So just grab a lot of paint. We've grabbed a bunch of red, have it about all filled in with one little layer. Now we're gonna keep that red on our brush and just jump up a couple inches from the bottom right-hand corner. So jump up just a few inches from the bottom and we're gonna do a little whoop whoop, kind of like two left-hand sides of a rainbow, a little whoop whoop, like a little sideways heart down there at the bottom right-hand corner. And now we're gonna go ahead and fill all that in with a layer. All right, so we got a good layer of red on everything. So now let's go ahead and wipe that one off and chunk it in the water. And grab a huge brush, so the biggest brush you have, so like a number 1 or something, and dry it off. And we're gonna grab some really light blue, so almost white. So really light blue, and we're gonna get all of the big areas of our canvas first. So a huge brush and dry it off and grab like a really light blue. And we're just gonna start by getting all the big areas because we'll come back and get right up next to our flower. Just keep grabbing a bunch of light blue and we're gonna get all the big areas before we come back with a smaller brush. So just leave a little bit of space around everything, like at least 1/4 of an inch or so, just to let it dry for a little bit. So now we have us a good base layer, and we're gonna let that dry for just a second and then come back and get right up next to everything. So we'll just wipe that one off and chunk it in the water. All right, so once you have your background, just left a little bit around it, then go ahead, you've wiped that one off, chunked it in the water. Now let's grab like a number 6 size brush is a good size, and dry it off, and we're gonna use that same really light blue. And now we're gonna get up next to everything. So you wanna get all the way up next to your flower. Don't leave any space between the flower and the background. And don't worry if your background's, you know, a little streaky, because you can always come back and thicken that up later around your stems. So just, and the trick to getting like up next to everything is load your brush with a lot of paint and then just be really light, and that's how you'll get a good line. So we're just gonna get up next to our whole flower. All 3 of them. Don't forget like your little one at the bottom right hand corner and then your one at the top. We just want to get up next to everything with the light blue. All right. Now we'll got up close to our little ones. Now we'll finish getting up close to the big flowers, just to finish off our background. And anytime like when you're outlining something and the line's getting a little perfect, I just kind of blend it into the background a little bit. That way it won't look like it's a perfect little outline around it. Just kind of streak it into your background. And don't worry that you're eating away at your flower, because we're getting ready to come back and throw a lot more paint on there. All right. Okay, we're almost. Now we have it all the way up next to our flower, our little parts of our flower and our big flower. So you can go ahead and wipe that one off and rinse that one out in the water, and rinse it off and dry it off. And now we're gonna grab some yellow. So I would start out by grabbing kind of like a golden yellow just to get started. And we're gonna fill in the middle. So I would get like all through your white parts first, so all through the center. And then we're even gonna kind of like throw a little bit over the edge of your red. So it can be a little bit bigger. Make it a little bit bigger than it was. And if your dark yellow is like too dark, grab like a little bit of like white with it. Make it a little pale. That covers a little bit better too when you have a little bit of white with the color. But just kind of go over the edge of your red. And it's fine if you can still like even see the red peeking through a little bit, that's fine. Because we're gonna come back and add some other colors through there. And just load your brush with a lot of paint and like really throw it on there, because it'll dry and it'll just kind of give you a little extra texture. So I would just really load it up and go for it. Just to get a good little start to the center. All right. Now just kind of wipe off your extra And we'll rinse that one out in the water again because we're gonna use about that same size brush. So number 6 is a good size brush. So just kind of wipe it off and rinse it out and dry it off. And now we're gonna grab some light pink. So you want some like really light baby pink with even a little bit of like bubblegum flamingo pink. So same size brush, like a number 6, and really light pinks. And we'll start over here on the right hand side of our flower, and we're just gonna do kind of to shape that petal. We're gonna go a little bit around the top of it, and then we're just gonna kind of let it lean in towards the middle for a couple inches. Don't worry if your background's still a little bit wet because we'll hit this a couple times. But so you wanna go around the top of it and let it lean in towards the middle. And then we're just gonna do a few light little streaks kind of that head in from that outside edge. And then once you have that first one, we're gonna do the same thing through the one below it. So just throw a little bit towards the edge, and then we're just gonna lean in towards the center. And then just kind of streak in a little bit. And we're gonna do the same kind of thing through the bottom one. Throw a little bit towards the edge. And then through this one, we're just gonna come right off the top of it, and we're gonna let it droop in towards the middle. And then we'll just throw a few little swipes right below our little droop there. Because with a flower, you have to kind of layer and throw a lot of paint to get that texture. So we'll get that, and now we'll throw some light over here through the left-hand side of our big poppy. So kind of I would throw a little bit of light all through that top edge, and then kind of swing it in towards the center. And do the same thing like near your little edges. And then once you have some all through the top, little pieces, then go ahead and once you're underneath your little shapes, we're gonna throw one kind of like you're going over the top of your finger. So, and just fill that in and take it like all the way to the bottom. And then right off of that, we'll skip down a little bit and throw like 2 big whoops. So like you're going over the right hand side of a rainbow, a little whoop whoop in towards the middle. And you can kind of thicken that up below it. And keep the lights on your brush. And now kind of where we had that lip shape before, we're gonna hit that with a little bit of light too. And then throw even a little bit of pink below it. Just kind of brush in a little bit of pink. All right, now let's go ahead and just kind of wipe that one off because we'll come back and throw some more lights in a sec. And grab some more of that dark red. So just wipe it off and grab some dark red. And we'll just thicken up all of the red parts of our flower. So just kind of grab a bunch of paint. You want to thicken up the little ones, so like that one at the top, the one down at the bottom, just get another layer of paint on it. And whenever you're filling those in, it doesn't really matter like which way your brush strokes go. I think it looks better just to kind of go any which way. So just kind of grab some and go for it. But fill in your top one, your bottom one, and then keep the red on there. And we're just gonna thicken up the red parts of our flower. So everywhere where we hadn't thrown that really light pink, just kind of throw another layer to thicken it up. Got a little bit of background in there. It's okay, we'll be able to throw some more paint. So kind of everywhere that you had the red. So I would take this red like all the way up next to your yellow. Just kind of streak it into your light pinks that you had on there. like to grab a bunch and kind of put it in the middle and then just kind of work it to the edges. So kind of like over here through like this big petal on the left, just kind of grab a bunch of red. Throw it in the middle and then kind of take it all the way to the sides. All right. Now we'll just throw a little bit more through the bottom and then we'll have like a second layer on all of our flower. And then while it's still wet, so we just threw this red on here. Now we'll grab a little bit of the dark pink. It's like a really dark pink. And while it's still wet up here through this big petal at the top, we're gonna brush just a few pink streaks. So through the left-hand side, you wanna kinda use that dark pink and kinda curve it to the left. And through the right-hand side, you wanna kinda curve it to the right. And that's gonna kinda give you that petal look like it's curved in. And then we're gonna do the same kind of thing, like keep the dark pink, and you can even grab a little bit of bubblegum pink. We're just gonna streak where the red touches the light. Kind of streak into it, because we'll come back and streak again with that light. So you wanna do that through both of these that kind of lean to the right. And I would throw a little bit like down here below your light through this petal. And sometimes it's good, since your red's still super wet, like this is the time where it's easier to blend. And so now up here through the top left, that big petal, I would throw some of that dark pink kind of right underneath your light pink. And then do the same thing through your little sections. And then I would even throw just a little bit right there. All right, so we have a good little bit of dark pink on there. Now let's go ahead and wipe that one off and let it dry for just a second. So now just grab like a number 6 size brush is a good size again, and dry it off, and we'll grab some like really light green. So you want like a slimy limey green. So number 6 and a really light green. And now we're gonna throw a few stems on here. So I would start with like your flower up here at the top left, and we're gonna throw a stem that comes right down. It's gonna kind of hit into that one below it, and then you just wanna skip over the big one and then throw it all the way off the bottom edge. And whenever you're like throwing your stems on there, you wanna load your brush with a lot of paint and then just be real light. But if something gets crazy, just let it dry, because you can come back with your background and slim it up. And then once you have that first stem, let's go ahead and skip to the right of that top flower, and we'll throw another stem on there. So I kind of will let this one lean to the left too. And then just kind of skip underneath your flower again. And throw it on off the bottom. And then let's skip underneath our flowers, kind of at the bottom center, and just throw a little stem, maybe like curve this one to the right a little bit, just so it's a little bit different. And then go ahead and skip over here to the right hand side, and we'll throw one. You can kind of lean that one out to the right too. And then we'll skip back over here to the bottom left, and maybe let's throw like a little leaf on there, because we have a bunch of stems. So I'll just skip in a little bit from the bottom, or skip up a little bit from that bottom left, and throw like a little whoop, kind of like the right hand side of a rainbow. And then I would just leave it really skinny towards the top and just kind of fatten it up towards the bottom. And don't worry if you cross over like a stem or two, because we'll come back and add those back. Just kind of leave it skinnier towards the top. And then you want to fatten it up towards the bottom. All right, now while we still have the slimy limey green, I kind of wipe it off just a tiny bit, but leave it on there and grab a little bit of yellow with it. So some slimy limey and a little bit of yellow. I would add a little bit, like a few little streaks of the light slimy limey and yellow together, a few of those streaks through the middle. So right through the center of your flower. And don't worry if it gets too green, you can always throw a little yellow back over. The more texture you have on a flower, the better. So kind of throw you a few little streaks through the middle. Okay, that got us kind of streaked up with the start of the green. Now while it's still wet, I would grab like a little bit of darker green. So like a dark green and maybe like a medium green. And we're just gonna add that to like the right-hand side of all of our stems. I would just kind of pick a side, that way it looks kind of like the light shining from the left-hand side. And if this gets too thick, we'll come back and hit it again with a light, so don't worry about it too much. But the trick is to load your brush with a lot of paint and then just to be real light with it. I'm probably gonna make it look like my stems go over my leaf, so I'll come back and add some more slimy limey to it later. But I'll kind of add some dark maybe to one side of my leaf too. It's just easier to blend when it's still super wet like this. All right. So now we have a little bit of dark going on through all of our stems. Looking good. So let's just wipe that one off and chunk it in the water. All right, so we'll kind of wipe that one off and rinse it out and dry it off. So probably like a same size brush is good. So number 6, and dry it off. And now we're gonna come back in with those lighter pinks again. So I'd grab that really light pink, like a baby pink with even a little bit of white. And right where we had the really light before, we're just gonna go back in and throw a little bit more light. Same thing over here, this edge. Because anything to make it really pop, you need like lights and darks. Now we have a little bit of light. So now we'll grab some of that. You don't have to wipe out your brush or anything. Just grab some like bubblegum flamingo pink with that really light. And we're just gonna streak that back in. Just load your brush with a lot of paint and just be real light with it. And we're just gonna do some of those streaks. So you don't wanna like paint it in solid. Just kind of streak in towards the middle. Just coming right off of your really light. And over here we'll do the same kind of thing. Have some of that bubblegum pink. Maybe throw you just a little bit right on the edge of your light. And the same thing up here through the top. All right, now we have a good start to that. Now we'll kind of grab the flamingo bubblegum pink with some really dark pink. So same size brush, you don't have to wipe it out. Just grab like the medium pink, so like a flamingo with a really dark pink, and we'll hit like our little lips again, kind of streak in with some of that there. Same thing like where the light touches the dark over here through the sides. We'll just be a little bit lighter this time. We don't need to be quite as heavy because there's already a bunch of paint on there. The same thing through our little whoop. And I would throw a little bit of dark pink up here too, so it doesn't go just like light to dark, so you have a little bit of, it'll kind of look like it's folding in. So a little bit right there. And I would keep the dark pink on there, and maybe we'll throw a little bit more dark up here through the top petal to kind of have it. So through the left hand side, kind of streak to the left, through the right, kind of streak to the right. Now I'm even going to grab a little bit more of that dark red, and I'm just going to kind of clean up the edges and streak back into my dark pink. So just kind of load your brush with a lot of paint and then be real light. And we'll kind of streak back in. All right. I feel like that's a good, it's looking pretty good. We'll let it dry for a sec. Let's go ahead and add our little middle pieces, and then we'll see if that kind of pops it out. So just kind of wipe off your extra. You don't have to rinse it out, just kind of wipe it off. And we'll grab some really dark brown, even add a little bit of black to it. And now we're gonna add our little stamen through the middle. So I would start like up here at the top left and throw one that's like, oh, inch and a half. You just don't want them to all be the same size. So right underneath that one, I would throw one that kind of like you're going over the top of a dime. Then maybe from the top center, throw one that's a little bit shorter than the first one. Maybe throw one at the bottom center, kind of like you're curving around the left of a dime. Give it a little bit of a curve. Then maybe let's throw a couple over here on the right. So maybe like through the bottom right of that big top petal, we'll throw one that kind of leans towards the top right. And then right underneath it, we'll throw another one that kind of leans. And then once you have that, let's grab a little bit light, like kind of the dark brown with maybe even like a little bit of orange or something, just to make it a little bit lighter brown. And we'll add a quick little streak just to kind of, so it won't be just dark. All right, so that got us some texture going on there. Now let's go ahead and throw another layer in through our background, and then we can check out our flower again. So wipe off your extra and chunk that one in the water. So now let's thicken up our background. So grab like a big brush, so like probably like a number 8's a good size brush, so like a pretty big brush, and dry it off. And we're gonna use more really light blue. So that baby blue, and we're gonna thicken up all the big areas of our canvas. So I wouldn't get right up next to your flower. I even put a teeny tiny bit of green in there with it, just to add a little something something. So like just kind of look at the green and you'll get enough. I wouldn't add too much. And this is where, like, if your stems got like big or bigger than you wanted them to be, this is where you can thin them down a little. But get all the big areas. So kind of thicken up through all those. And I think it looks better to kind of go any which direction. So don't try to go like all left to right, all up and down. Just kind of grab a bunch of paint and go any which way. But if you do decide to like thin down a stem, just load your brush with a whole lot of paint and then just be really light, and that's how you'll get a good line. Let's throw some up here through the top. All of these big areas. But yeah, you can grab just a tiny bit of light green with it, and that'll kind of add a little something to your background. But I like to grab a lot of paint and then kind of work it in. So I have a bunch up here and then I just kind of smear it around. So we got it kind of smeared around through the right. Now let's kind of thicken up all this over here through the left. So just kind of grab a bunch of paint, put it on there, and then I would just kind of work it into the canvas. And if your stems got out of control anywhere, just kind of thin them up. But I wouldn't get right up next to your red, because if you just finished painting it, it's probably still a little wet. But I like to use a lot of paint in the background, especially something like this, like a big flower. It kind of adds like some texture and dimension if you have like a lot of paint on your brush and streaking around. Might hit our stems like one more time just to get like the bottom left a little. But yeah, just kind of grab a glob, put it on there. When you have a bunch, just kind of use that, work it into your brush and kind of work it around on the canvas. I think we about got all of our little sections, all the big parts thickened up. Yeah. So now we'll just wipe that one off and chunk it in the water. And let's grab a little bit smaller brush. It's like a number 4. And dry it off. And we'll use some more of that slimy, limey green. So really light green. And we're just going to go over our stems. So definitely like these down here at the bottom. So it'll look like they're kind of going over the top of the leaf. You can even add just a tiny bit of yellow with it too. Make it a little brighter in a few places. Let's just wipe that one off. Just kind of get your excess off there. And I would grab some more of the yellows. And now we can go back in if you need to kind of make these a little bit bumpier towards the middle, or if your green got a little bit thick, you can just kind of thin that up a little bit and bump your edges. And it's all right if you can still see a little bit of red kind of peeking through, that's fine. All right, I think that looks pretty good. Let's thicken up our red just real quick and then we'll be good. So now we'll grab like a size 8 or so is good, or you could go a little bit smaller. But the last thing we're gonna do is kind of touch up our red. I thought a few places looked a little bit thin. So I'm just gonna use like a size 8 brush and some red. And I'm just going to go back to anywhere where it looked a little bit thin and kind of thicken that up. You don't want to have it look thin anywhere through your flower. So just kind of over here through the left. Like I think I kind of needed to hit that again. just kind of anywhere where you needed to thicken up your red a little bit. And then kind of wipe it off, and maybe we'll hit the lights. So like the light pink, just in a few places. Make sure our edges are good. Light, light, light. All right, and now we have Poppy. And let's go ahead and sign it too. So you can sign it with a teeny tiny brush, like a number 1. In whatever color. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Be sure to check us out. We're on Cox Street in Asheboro. And be sure to check out our website, www.thepreppypossum.com.